Hi again, everybody. Bobby Gaines here with another one of my rants, always live and unscripted. Last time I talked about the NFL general statement. I'll get more into that as the season progresses, but now I'm going to talk a little baseball. Moving on to the whole sports scene, and can the Red Sox stay in first place? Well, that's yet to be seen, but it's certainly looking good. Some people would call this surprising. I guess I'm also in the surprised camp, although not as much as most. Not as much as most, if that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, the Red Sox were a popular pick to finish last, either the Red Sox or the Yankees, and actually both teams are outperforming expectations, but none more so than the Boston Red Sox, who finished with one of the worst records in the baseball last year. And again, like I get back to my original point, is it surprising? Yes, but is it that surprising? Not exactly. I mean, it's so easy to forget about just years of consistent success under Terry Francona for 4 or 5 years, and just 90-win seasons, and then the collapse in 2011, and then I mean, if this doesn't prove 2012 was an abnormality, I don't know what does, because there's no way that roster of talent, Dustin Pedroia, Kevin Youkilis, whoever it was at the time, David Ortiz, the offense, I mean, they didn't have a good pitching staff last year. The pitching is shaped up a lot, but still, even with all that, last year's team even could have won more than 69 games. Not that it really matters. To me personally, if you don't make it into the playoffs, does it really matter if you won 85 games or 65 games? I mean, I guess. But this year's Red Sox team seems poised to win 95 games. Let's hope that happens because, again, we're reminded of September 2011. But in thinking about that year, that great, 2011 best team ever, and then how it just went downhill so quickly, even that year, the Red Sox, they were 9 games up in the wild card. So yes, they were in the playoffs, supposedly, but they were actually 2 games out of their own division. They were trailing the Yankees by like 1 or 2 games going into September. And the thing that got me mad was that they seemed content with staying with the wild card. Like I think they lost a series to the Yankees to start September, and they fell 3 or 4 games out of the division, but they were still 7 up in the wild card. So everybody was saying, all right, they get into the playoffs as the wild card. But my thinking then was, and this was before they had the 2 wild cards, go for the division. Even if you don't get it, at least play like you need the division. Even if you fall a couple games short of the division, we're not talking about the Red Sox going 7-20 because they decided they needed the rest. I don't know what happened that year. Obviously, my now infamous rant of anger against Terry Francona is online. I still do blame a lot of people for the 2011 collapse. Kind of a lack of a leadership more than just one leader individually. So, I mean, yes, Terry Francona was at the forefront of that. His entire philosophy just didn't work when they needed it most. And other players, it was on them too. And I'm really glad to see this team sticking to that. Just play hard, keep playing hard. Doesn't matter if we won the last game, if we lost the last game, we're going to keep going every game. They just had a disappointing loss to Detroit last night, but I mean, that's not, again, Detroit's a really good team. So if we're talking about the Red Sox having a tough time with Detroit at the end of the season, at least they're still relevant, as opposed to last year when they had a tough time with everybody. So, again, this Red Sox team looks really good. What else makes them different than last year's team, though, is on the roster. Obviously, they have Shane Victorino, they have Mike Napoli, a couple of established veterans who have been in winning organizations. Mike Napoli going to the World Series twice with the Rangers, and before that with the Angels. He was always on winning teams. Shane Victorino winning the World Series in '08, but more than just what they've won, they've both been good clubhouse guys, and they've both done a really good job. And again, I mean, abnormalities happen. I mean, you look at the Phillies, who were always, until like last year, they were always expected to be a big contender. The last couple of years, they've been a disappointment, despite having a similar roster. So you bring back the Red Sox roster from the winning days, whether it be Pedroia, Ortiz, Lester, now Buchholz, if he can ever stay healthy. So that looks like a good team. And then you add the people that the Red Sox have added, like Jake Peavy, Ryan Dempster, and the pitching staff. And yes, Dempster hasn't really panned out, but all those things considered, and obviously John Farrell is a very underrated addition. I mean, John Farrell just was plugged into this team in the offseason, and still no one knew what to expect, but he's pretty much taken over from where Francona left off. I mean, you look at Francona's teams. Actually, Francona's teams usually had a slow start. This Red Sox team got off to a very hot start and has, for the most part, stayed that way. They had a couple bad stretches, and it seems like every time the Red Sox have a bad stretch, whether it's a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is, if they lose a couple of series, the reaction automatically is, oh, here we go. Nope, the pitching went bad 2 days in a row, And, if Tampa Bay wins a few in a row, here comes Tampa Bay. There's nothing the Red Sox can do. But now Tampa Bay's on a losing streak. So are they going down? I don't feel like there's that same panic. I feel like, no one's out of it in the AL East. Even the Yankees. I feel like the Yankees, the Orioles, and the Rays, even when they're not playing well, the Red Sox fans still look over their shoulder. But when the Red Sox aren't playing well, we're going, oh boy, this is it. They're not going to turn it around. And yet they have. I actually had the pleasure of being at the Seattle game where the Red Sox came back down 7-1 on August 1st. I mean, that was a game that, that was 90% of their losses last year, just getting beat up early and just giving up. But in that game, that looked like just a bad night, and they turned it into a win. So this team has the capability to do that. They'll disappoint once in a while, like last night, but all things told, they're on a pace to be even better than the 2011 Red Sox, who were supposed to be the best team ever. Whether or not they win the World Series or even make it to the World Series, though, I'm still not sold. As much as I love this team and I love the personality and the hard work, hard work comes to an end at some point. There are like 29 teams that don't win the World Series, and a lot of them probably worked hard and had a decent amount of talent. But I almost feel like the 2003 Red Sox, who overperformed and they really rallied around each other and around the fans, and it got them to Game 7 of an ALCS against the Yankees. But ultimately, that wasn't the goal. Ultimately, the Yankees still had a better pitching staff. They still had a better lineup, and that showed itself in the last game of the season that year. So can this Red Sox team overcome some deficits, like not having an established closer? And yes, Uehara has been very good, but will he be able to close out the big games? We'll see. Will this pitching rotation keep just doing what it's doing? There's not a masterful ace on the staff, but they keep putting up good outings night after night. So if they can do that in the playoffs, maybe we're talking about something here. But you still have to face the facts that you're going up against Detroit with Verlander, Scherzer, Porcello, Pfister, and you're going up against Tampa Bay potentially with David Price. I mean, I don't have to list them all, but every team has got someone to throw at you. The Red Sox are more of a collective. They play really well as a team, but can they win in a 5 or 7 game series? We'll find out, and I look forward to the wild ride. Either way, this has been a great baseball season, needless to say. It's going to come down to the wire. So, can the Red Sox stay in first place? I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes, they can. Does that mean they're the best team in the American League? I don't know. I think Detroit surpasses them, but I think the Red Sox do hold on. I think they hold off the Rays, and I do think the Yankees may get that second wild card. We may be looking at the Rays and the Yankees playing for a spot in the playoffs at the end of the month. So, let's see what happens. Bobby Gaines. Talk to you later.